The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse in Baltimore is being felt in Utah tonight.
So for 6 years, I commuted on that bridge every morning, every night, just like driving on I-15 here.
What one expert says about the collapse and what might happen next.
A break from the storms tomorrow, but don't get used to it. How weather could impact your Easter weekend plans.
The thrill of the tournament tainted by hate.
For our players, no one knew how to handle it.
Tonight, the University of Utah women's basketball coach says racial slurs were hurled at her team during the NCAA tournament.
We are heartbroken that this happened.
How the sports world is reacting, coming up.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9, starts right now.
Based on the length of time that we've gone in this search, the extensive search efforts that we've put into it, the water temperature, that at this point we do not believe that we're going to find any of these individuals still alive.
Our top story tonight is the tragedy in Baltimore, Maryland after that massive bridge collapse overnight. 6 people are presumed dead after a container ship struck the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
The NTSB has reached out to transportation officials in Singapore, where the ship was flagged from. Personnel from the country are expected to arrive on scene tomorrow. The city of Baltimore says the collision dismantled the core traffic system of its daily commute.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser breaks down the timeline. She joins us live in studio tonight. Emily.
Bob Kelly, the container ship left its port early around 12:30 a.m. and started to change its course an hour later. Now, officials have not solidified the time exactly, but the ship at some point called Mayday, and local authorities were able to shut down traffic to stop cars from getting on the bridge. At 1:27, the ship struck the pier, causing the collapse. Fire crews got there about 20 minutes later.
It happened over 2,100 miles away, but the fall of the Francis Scott Key Bridge is all anyone can think about.
Whenever we see a tragedy or something happen, we always think it's not going to happen to us. It's not going to happen to my town, my city.
Sean Perrette moved from Baltimore to Farmington years ago.
So for 6 years, I commuted on that bridge every morning, every night, just like driving on I-15 here. You're going to drive on it sooner or later, if not every day.
When he saw the video, he was shocked. His brother is a state trooper who covers the area.
He let my mother know that, they had less than 5 minutes from when they found out there was an issue to try to get those highways closed.
Could have been much worse if it would have been during the daytime or even without advance warning.
That's Dr. Marv Halling with Utah State. His research specializes in bridges.
Once you remove one pier, the collapse is not surprising.
He says most piers have a bumper to prevent boats from causing major damage.
Frankly, a moderate-sized fender or pier protection doesn't have much effect against a vessel that large.
Halling believes it'll take a minimum of 2 years to design and build a new bridge.
That will affect traffic in the Washington and Baltimore area for at least several years.
Obviously, Utah bridges aren't at risk of getting hit by container ships. Halling tells me the biggest threat is most likely earthquakes, and that's another key focus of his research. Bob, I know you asked UDOT a lot of questions this afternoon about our infrastructure here.
That's right. In fact, I did, Emily, and you're right. There is no chance of a cargo ship ever hitting a bridge in Utah, but motorists drive on 3,109 bridges in Utah every day. This afternoon, I found that in June of last year, the state said 138 of those 3,100 bridges needed repair, compared to 127 in 2019. The American Road and Transportation Builders Association says 75 or 2.4% of Utah's bridges are structurally deficient. That means one of the key elements of those bridges is in poor or worse condition. And that 75 is up from 66 in 2019. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021 set aside $225 million for Utah bridge repairs. As of last June, the state had committed $9.7 million toward 12 projects. Still, in August of 2022, The Department of Transportation said Utah had the best maintained bridges in the nation. I spoke with Mitch Shaw with UDOT this afternoon. He says UDOT inspects each of Utah's bridges every 2 years, checking on all the components for soundness and integrity. When something is found that needs to be repaired, they address it. When it comes to the bridges withstanding heavy impacts, he recalled an incident last year on I-215 in West Valley City when a construction truck hit a bridge with a heavy piece of equipment.
They're meant and designed and engineered to withstand, a crash involving heavy semi-trucks. So I think when you ask the question, can people expect to be safe if that kind of thing would occur? I would say yes. They're designed for that kind of thing, and they're designed to be sound and be able to absorb those kind of impacts.
Shaw says the construction engineers designed for the worst case scenarios when building our roads and bridges. Stay with Fox 13 News as we continue to track the bridge collapse in Baltimore. We'll keep you updated on air, on our social media pages, and online at fox13now.com.
Turning now to weather, here's a live look at I-80 at Parley's Summit. You can see a little bit of snow on the roads there. Definitely wet road conditions tonight as people travel about, Allison.
Yes, and tomorrow a break from the storm, so just a few more hours left of precipitation here across northern Utah. And then we'll be seeing a drying out period for tomorrow. 41 currently in Salt Lake, 37 for Ogden, 38 for Provo. Still, where we're seeing most of our snow right now is for the Wasatch Mountains, mainly north of Provo Canyon and along the Wasatch Back. We still could see some precipitation here along the Wasatch Front. We've seen some cells getting going over Antelope Island and down through Provo, Nephi, Highway 6 down towards about Soldier Summit, and then across southern Utah. We're really starting to dry out. So our precipitation chances become much more unlikely into early tomorrow morning. And then for Salt Lake, you'll have a pleasant day tomorrow. Temperatures rising into the 50s. We'll see more sunshine tomorrow compared to the last couple of days. Less of a chance of precipitation. And then on Thursday, our active weather does return. What to expect for Easter weekend coming up.
A man in Utah County was rescued this afternoon after being caught in a construction site collapse. The accident happened at a home on 4000 West, just off of Cedar Hills Drive. The private contractor was working on a sewer line at a home when a 10-foot trench collapsed, burying the 20-year-old up to his neck. Battalion Chief Justin Whatcott says the Utah Valley Metro Special Response Team prepares for situations just like this.
With this team, we're always training in instances like this, such as trench rescue. We do special or structure collapse, rope rescue, confined space. This is a component of all those kind of put together, where we have our hazmat component, we have our trench rescue component, we had a rope rescue component that all came together to remove this victim.
Officials are still investigating what exactly caused the collapse. The man who fell in the trench was airlifted to the hospital. He was able to breathe and speak when he was rescued. 2 of the 3 teenagers accused in the death of a 21-year-old Utah man are being charged as adults. According to new filings, 17-year-old Rowan Sharoon and 17-year-old Pedro Romero Bustos will face the charges in adult court. The third suspect is a 15-year-old. Charges have not been filed for them in adult court at this time. All 3 are accused of being present when Alex Franco was shot and killed while he was allegedly trying to buy a gun. Hearings were scheduled for all 3 suspects in juvenile court for tomorrow afternoon. We have reached out for clarity on if those hearings will take place in adult court instead.
All I can say is that he reached out to me, and that's how it started. And at this point, we're ready to go forward, and he wants to tell his story.
We're 1 week away from the Chad Daybell murder trial in Boise. Coming up, hear more from his attorney, John Pryor, in an exclusive interview.
Plus, talk about sky-high jackpots. The grand prizes for both Mega Millions and Powerball are over $2 billion combined. We'll break down all the numbers behind the big bucks.
What's it like to be a veteran on the Utah Jazz team that's rebuilding? We'll hear from John Collins after today's practice on how this team is dealing with losing.
We are now 1 week away from the trial of Chad Daybell, who's charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder in the deaths of his first wife, Tammy Daybell, and his second wife's children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan.
And now we are hearing from Daybell's attorney after a judge denied his motion to withdraw from the case. Don Nelson with our sister station in Boise has the exclusive interview.
Attorney John Pryor has been working on the Chad Daybell case for almost 4 years, and you might wonder how Pryor was thrust into the national spotlight.
All I can say is that he reached out to me, and that's how it started, and at this point we're ready to go forward, and he wants to tell his story.
That story will start next week with jury selection in a trial that's expected to last anywhere from 8 to 10 weeks. And if you think Pryor has assembled a team to take on this high-profile case, think again.
Well, unfortunately, Don, I'm doing this myself, so that makes things a little challenging. But fortunately, I've had about 3 years and 10 months to go through all the evidence, to sort of look at what I want to present to the jury, and I'm looking forward to my opportunity to do that.
I asked Pryor, who attended Lori Vallow Daybell's trial on a regular basis, if he learned anything that he could use in Chad Daybell's case.
Did I learn a lot of new things? Oh, absolutely. Did I see what the prosecutor intends to do? Yes. Was it a surprise? No.
I was also curious whether Lori could be called to the stand.
It's possible. It's always possible. Anybody who's connected to a case could be called. And I don't want to and I want to be clear. I'm not telling you that I am or that the state is or anybody else is, but anybody can be called. If you have an involvement in this case, potentially you could become a witness in this case.
The trial hasn't started yet, but John Pryor is grateful for one thing.
I'm grateful that Judge Boyce decided to move the trial over to Ada County. One of the main reasons I'm grateful is I know the folks in Ada County. I've spent better than half my life living here.
And for the next few months, most of that time will be spent at the Ada County Courthouse. In Boise, Idaho, I'm senior reporter Don Nelson for Fox 13 News, Utah.
A New York judge issued a gag order today in former President Donald Trump's criminal hush money trial. Mr. Trump is barred from making public statements about witnesses, prosecutors, court staff, and jurors. The judge cited prior comments Trump made about him and others in the case as the reason why. Prosecutors had also asked for the gag order.
Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced his running mate today. It will be lawyer and entrepreneur Nicole Shanahan. Kennedy made the announcement at an event in Oakland. That's where Shanahan is from. She was once married to the co-founder of Google and has also been a top donor to Kennedy's campaign. Kennedy and Shanahan are running as independents. They're working to get on the ballot in more states.
In Fox 13 News Money Watch, lottery fever has swept America again with a combination we have never seen before.
Oh, we are talking 2 massive jackpots. That means twice the chances to win, right?
For all the good that'll do you.
The Powerball jackpot stands at $865 million ahead of tomorrow night's drawing, while the Mega Millions grand prize landed at $1.1 billion ahead of tonight's drawing, which just took place at the top of the hour. Are you ready? Jackpot prizes have been bigger, but this is the first time in history that both Powerball and Mega Millions have offered prizes of more than $800 million at the same time.
Wow. Jonathan Cohen, the author of For a Dollar and a Dream, tells Scripps News he believes massive jackpots will soon become the new norm. Cohen adds lotteries are already plotting how to keep the momentum going by decreasing the odds of winning.
The lottery agency is manipulating this and making this happen by just making the games harder to win. The most common way to do this is you just add to the pool of numbers that you need to choose from.
The odds of winning Powerball are 1 in 92 million.
No, 292 million.
What did I say, 92?
Yeah.
1 in 292.
92 million didn't sound so bad.
No. So you're saying there's a chance. And it's even more of a long shot for the Mega Millions, where your chances are about 1 in 302. million.
I know it's going to be tough, but you know.
Somebody has to win.
It's got to be somebody. Here's a look at those winning numbers for Mega Millions tonight. If you happen to cross the state lines to buy a ticket, and if you picked 7, 11, 22, 29, 38 with a mega ball of 4. I swear I was going to play those numbers live. I should have gone up to Idaho. If you didn't win, your next chance to win big on the Mega Millions will be Friday night.
Well, here's the comforting thing. If you didn't win and you're a big loser in the lottery, you're in great company.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of losers in the lottery.
You got to admire those people for taking a risk. You know,
They-
putting it out there,
putting it out
saying,
there.
you know what, I'm going to take a chance.
Yeah.
1 in 292 or 305 million. So,
The chances
okay.
aren't great. Someone's going to win, but it's not going to be you, unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
That's how those stats play out. I'm meteorologist Allison Krogan. Someone is going to see some snow tonight, and if you're here along the Wasatch Front, it's probably not going to be you. Although I'm not going to rule out the possibility here over the next couple of hours for some isolated showers. Today we made it to 50 degrees. We have been below average the last several days since Sunday. That was kind of the buzzkill, right? We had upper 60s, we had sunshine last week, and then it became the weekend and our weather got quite wild over the last couple of days. What we're going to be tracking here for the next few days will be an area of high pressure for tomorrow into early Thursday, ahead of a storm that starts to drop down the California coast. Out ahead of it, we'll see a series of waves starting with a cold front midday on Thursday, and that is going to bring us a little bit of a cool down after tomorrow's warm up. So basically our temperatures will stay pretty consistent for the next couple of days, and we'll also see brief periods of a blast of precipitation with that frontal boundary on Thursday afternoon. For Salt Lake right now, 41 degrees, 37 right now for Ogden, 38 for Provo. And we are seeing a little bit of snow that's developing mainly north of I-80. Let's go ahead up towards Logan Canyon. Snow is currently coming down on and off towards Garden City. We do have that precipitation that we were tracking about 15 minutes ago coming off of Antelope Island. So moving just north of the airport, mainly up through Davis County. A little bit of lightning with that actually, picking up maybe some thunder snow tonight if you're lucky. And then as we look across southern Utah, a little bit of rain still for Washington County. And then for the Wasatch Back and Wasatch Mountains, we do have some winter driving conditions right now. Overnight temps, 20s and 30s here across the state for tomorrow morning. For the Wasatch Front throughout tomorrow, we'll make it into the 50s, a break between storms. So I hope you can enjoy it because we are returning to on and off chances for precipitation Thursday through Easter weekend. For St. George, you're going to have temperatures near 40 degrees first thing tomorrow morning, rising into the mid to upper 60s. And then on Thursday, out ahead of our front, we do have wind that's going to pick up here across the state. So we'll see our wind gusting about 20 to 30, maybe even 40 miles per hour out towards the West Desert, but 20 to 30 miles per hour for much of the state on Thursday. So we're going to have gusty conditions Thursday. That's why we have to enjoy tomorrow. 5 minutes. That's all I want you to give me tomorrow. 5 minutes outside enjoying it. Partly cloudy sky. Temperatures just barely below average. Wind picks up on Thursday for St. George in the 70s. 60 on Saturday, Easter Sunday, mid-50s with the chances for rain for St. George. And for Salt Lake, we're going to have our temperatures in the 50s for the next week, so very close to average. Partly cloudy tomorrow. Active weather returns Thursday on. We'll talk more about that later in the hour. We'll be right back.
A new report says more Utahns are supporting LGBTQ protections than ever before. It has officially been 9 years since the Utah State Senate passed statewide legislation to ban discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in employment and housing. Troy Williams with Equality Utah says Utah is the second highest in the country for overall support in non-discrimination laws.
You know, we never get complacent, right? We always want to remain vigilant, and we always want to find ways to keep building bridges, helping to other people to understand our community.
The report by Public Religion Research Institute says that in 2023, a staggering 86% of Utahns support the protections.
The Davis Catalyst Center held its inaugural Tech HERS Junior event today. 120 to 150 girls from 5th through 8th grades in the Davis School District attended. The event aimed to help girls become interested in science, technology, engineering, and math, and included a panel of women representing those industries.
The girls are exploring everything from they're flying drones, they're building birdhouses, they're playing with robotics, they're doing broadcasting, right? They're doing these things because they're exploring these fields. Everything is hands-on.
The Catalyst Center wants to make this an annual event. They had 13 pathways ranging from cybersecurity to drones to aviation, pharmacy tech, and medical assisting.
Hear from the University of Utah women's basketball head coach about the several instances of racial hate crimes she says her team experienced while staying in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho for the NCAA tournament.
Utah's governor holds a bill signing ceremony for legislation on the Great Salt Lake.
The Running Utes are one of 28 teams still playing in the postseason right now. We'll hear from Craig Smith on why his team is succeeding in the NIT.
The college sports world is reacting after University of Utah women's head basketball coach Lynn Roberts said her team was a victim of racial hatred during the NCAA women's basketball tournament.
Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule explains what happened during the tournament and its possible impact on students and people of color.
The NCAA tournament is supposed to be an exciting and empowering time for student athletes. But for members of the University of Utah women's basketball team, their experience was tarnished while staying in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho for the tournament.
You know, we had several instances of some kind of racial hate crimes.
Tony Stewart, secretary for the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, says last week the University of Utah and UC Irvine women's basketball teams encountered a truck flying a Confederate flag while going to dinner. The driver began shouting racial slurs, including the N-word, at the athletes. The task force says after the players left the restaurant, the driver, along with additional people, followed the team back to their resort while yelling racial threats and revving their engines.
For our players, whether they are, white, black, green, whatever, no one knew how to handle it.
After the incident, the teams were able to move to hotels in Spokane, where the tournament was being hosted by Gonzaga. They were originally staying in Coeur d'Alene because of a lack of hotel space.
You know, the NCAA and Gonzaga worked to get us in a new hotel, and we appreciate that.
The NCAA released a statement Tuesday saying, in part, the NCAA was made aware of the incident that occurred last week and immediately worked with Gonzaga and Utah to provide increased security for the team until new accommodations could be arranged within the same day in Spokane. Local therapist Gregory Noel says racist incidents like this have a big impact on both the student athletes and other people of color.
Puts me in a space of reflection as to when will we ever fully arrive as Black, Indigenous, and other people of color.
Reflecting on the incident, both Stewart and Noel wanted to leave a message for the student athletes impacted.
We support them. We are heartbroken that this happened, and any way that we can be supportive with them, please let them know that. And secondly, law enforcement is in the process of investigating.
The Coeur d'Alene police say they are actively looking for video of the incident and are asking anyone who may have been a victim or a witness to contact them. At the University of Utah, I'm Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Late this afternoon, the University of Utah Athletic Department issued a statement saying now, several days later, we are continuing to provide support and resources to all of those impacted by the events in Idaho last Thursday. As we continue to heal, we remain very disappointed in the decision to assign our team to hotels such a great distance from the competition site in another state.
A Utah man was sentenced today after threatening to shoot police officers. Court documents indicate shortly after 10 p.m. on October 3rd of last year, Jeremy Maestas was walking with a push scooter along 100 East and 200 North in Tooele when an officer spotted him and tried to make contact. After refusing to talk to officers and threatening them multiple times with a gun, police tackled Maestas and determined he had a CO2-powered gun. Jeremy Maestas was charged with failure to stop at the command of law enforcement, among other charges. He was sentenced to 2 years probation.
The man who was arrested after deputies say he rammed his wife's car off the road in January was sentenced today. Court documents say 36-year-old Trevor Miller has been sentenced to up to 5 years in the Utah State Prison for aggravated assault, driving under the influence, and reckless endangerment.
We've learned one of the men in a shooting outside Fashion Place Mall in January is taking a plea deal. Court documents indicate 18-year-old Emmanuel Ahmad was in a group of 6 people involved in the shooting in the parking lot right outside the Container Store back on January 13th. The incident led to someone getting shot in the ankle, as well as several cars being struck by gunfire. Ahmed pleaded guilty to the charge of felony discharge of a firearm and in return got 9 other charges dismissed. He is set to be sentenced on May 17th. After changing Cedar High schoolers from the Redmen to the Reds 5 years ago, the Iron County School Board is now considering bringing back the old mascot.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us how dozens of residents showed up at an Iron County School Board meeting tonight to make their voices heard.
A controversial topic brought back around in southern Utah.
The term Redmen is a term not recognized within Native American communities as paying respect to the history and legacy of this nation's first people, but rather a slang term that has been used for over 200 years to attribute racial defamation to Native people.
Paiute leaders say calling the Cedar High School mascot the Redmen dishonors Native Americans.
The term redskin or red man came from 2 places. One, our skin color and the cruel torture of skinning Native Americans in the 1800s for bounties.
Autumn Gillard says at the time when Cedar High School adopted the Redmen, Paiutes living in Iron County were at a low in their tribal history.
Paiute Indian tribal members were faced with starvation, low income, epidemic of disease, discrimination, segregation, and forced sterilization of our women.
But some community members, like Cedar High School alumni, are fighting to bring back the Redmen.
It's not about a racial slur or any other thing. It is a badge of honor that they wear.
Longtime residents take pride in the name.
Redmen is an honorable and cultural rich Native American name that should be respected, not erased. The name keeps our community tied to Native American heritage and motivates our youth and community to learn and take pride in our Native American heritage.
Many Native American residents themselves expressing their support for the Redmen.
I understand what the tribe is saying, but they do not speak for every single Native American. My children and many others found that name prideful.
Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Now, within the past 30 minutes, the school board decided they are going to draft a proposal to put the Redmen versus Red up for a public vote no later than the November election.
Still to come, we will break down the water bills Governor Spencer Cox signed into law today and how they'll try to help the struggling Great Salt Lake.
And today we hit 50 degrees, still below average, but tomorrow the nice weather returns. How long that will last and what to expect for Easter weekend.
Governor Spencer Cox is calling attention to big policy shifts to help with water conservation and saving the Great Salt Lake.
The policies passed by the legislature are being hailed as generational shifts for the state. But will they actually get water into the Great Salt Lake? Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has the story from Willard Bay.
This is a big day for Utah.
Governor Spencer Cox held a ceremonial event to highlight legislation on water conservation and the Great Salt Lake.
We've changed law that have been in place since before Utah was a state.
Some legislation solves a problem Fox 13 News and the Great Salt Lake Collaborative identified. Farmers switched to water-saving technologies, but they can't track the savings, and farmers couldn't just give it to the Great Salt Lake without fear of losing water rights.
There was a great disincentive that you could still hold that water right and
lease it to somewhere else that needs it, lease it to somebody who wants to put it in the Great Salt Lake.
Another bill was very controversial. It cuts the amount of water mineral extraction companies can take from the Great Salt Lake. Some fought it in the legislature, but the CEO of Compass Minerals joined the governor and lawmakers for the signing of the bill that originally targeted them. He says it now offers incentives for companies to use less.
It's a better business for us. Two, it's the right thing to do. Yeah, with the lake levels are low, we're going to have to withdraw less water, but that's just life. And the last thing we want to see is the lake go toxic.
The Great Salt Lake Commissioner, tasked by state leaders with enacting a plan to save the lake, believes these bills will help.
More optimistic now than I was 2 years ago. I'm more optimistic now than I was a year ago when I took this job. And so I think that on the whole, it was a pretty good legislative session for the Great Salt Lake, and I think there's a lot to be celebrated.
The governor insists the policies passed will get water to the lake.
So what's amazing about what Utahns did in a good year last year by continuing to conserve, our reservoirs are fuller than they've been in a long time, so over 80%, which and with the water that we have now in the mountains allows us to start releasing that water directly into the Great Salt Lake. So we think we're going to have a really good year in the Great Salt Lake.
So the good news is more water will be coming to the Great Salt Lake. Scientists expect it to rise as much as 2 feet. But we are still several feet below what is considered an ecologically healthy range for the Great Salt Lake. At Willard Bay, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It is a long-running tradition held right here in Utah. How the Utah Junior Livestock Show is celebrating 100 years.
There are 28 men's basketball teams in the country still playing in the postseason, and Utah is one of them. We'll hear from Craig Smith on the Utes NIT run, and what's it like being a veteran on a young, rebuilding Jazz team. We'll hear from John Collins after today's practice on how this team is coping with losing.
Welcome back. It is a long-running tradition here in Utah, and they think it just might be the oldest and longest-running livestock show west of the Mississippi. It's the Utah State Junior Livestock Show at the Spanish Fork Fairgrounds.
And this spring, they'll mark the 100th year. As Fox 13 News anchor Amy Nay shows us, they are adding some new things to the old favorites.
We just wanted to make this year just super special.
And Monday night, they kicked off their 100 years of the Utah State Junior Livestock Show with a special legacy dinner, bringing together people whose lives have been impacted by the long-running tradition and raising money for a new scholarship program.
It is going to perpetuate and continue on for years and years. We had an amazing, amazing dinner, and auction where we raised $63,000.
Duran Smith, involved all her life in ranching and farming, volunteers with the 100-year committee for the show in Spanish Fork, the biggest of its kind, with some 450 exhibitors for anyone in 4-H or FFA, and now this year with some added incentive.
Any of the seniors that are entered in the show can apply for the scholarship.
Money that can go to a trade school, an ag project, or college.
We've set it up to where it's to help their future.
They're also launching a food drive and service project.
The Utah Farm Bureau's Miracle of Ag Foundation will match the pounds of food per pound with the pounds of hamburger.
It's donated to Tabitha's Way, a food pantry helping families in Utah County. But the livestock show is something that's helped so many.
Without a doubt, I would not be where I am today without my involvement in the Junior Livestock Program.
26-year-old Sakia White grew up showing pigs, sheep, and cattle. She went to Utah State, earning her agricultural education degree, and now works for the Utah Farm Bureau Federation.
It taught me responsibility. It taught me how to network and how to have relationships with people. In all my 10 years of showing and all the different shows I went to, I never won a grand champion. But being on the other side of it now, that's not what was important.
She says it's the life lessons learned.
Hard work is for sure one of the things that maybe even the most important lesson.
But Sakia says the friendships were priceless, and her mom agrees.
I think the relationships is the thing I love the absolute most, because we're all in the fight, and when somebody's got a sick animal, we're calling somebody at 11 o'clock at night, hey.
This year's 100th Utah State Junior Livestock Show in Spanish Fork kicks off April 30th.
Come to the show.
Amy Nay, Fox 13 News, Utah.
To enter this year's Utah State Junior Livestock Show in Spanish Fork, entries are due by April 1st.
Scholarship applications are due by the 20th. Everyone is invited to the show, which will be held at the Spanish Fork Fairgrounds April 30th through May 4th.
So get your animals ready.
That's right.
Start grooming them now.
Get your cowboy going, cowgirl going.
And how do you do that?
You put on your hat and your 6-shooters and your cowboy boots.
It looks like a big show.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah.
100 years worth of tradition.
Well, hey, speaking of a huge year, remember Alta last year? They surpassed 900 inches of snow.
Yes.
Well, they've just now today made it to 545 inches. It's really difficult to compare this year to last year because last year was outrageous. So I wanted just to compare the numbers to let you know where we're currently sitting. They've had 39 inches of snow in the last 4 days, and that brings our season total to 545. And for perspective, last year they hit 600 inches on March 4th last year. But where we're currently at right now, if the season was over, this would be an above average season. So everything we get in the next month, next 2 months, really going to be icing on top of the cake. So really happy about the numbers that we're currently seeing there. And then we've got more storms on the way for this weekend. So we're going to continue adding to those numbers. It's all looking really good, especially as we usually have our peak snowpack first week of April. And we've got another potential big storm in the forecast for this weekend. 41 currently in Salt Lake. Let's talk about the next couple of days. High pressure is going to be our main story for tomorrow, and then on Thursday we're going to have a cold front that moves in. That's all ahead of the main part of the storm that's going to be moving down the coast of California through Friday. So additional waves are possible, and then once this moves inland, this is where we've still got a lot of questions, still some uncertainty for Saturday into Sunday. So as of right now, this is how it could play out on Easter Sunday. Widespread rain and snow here across the state could make tough travel for especially our higher passes along I-15, I-80, really any of our mountain passes could be really tough for the holiday weekend. I would not cancel your Easter plans yet. I would start thinking about a backup plan, maybe bringing things indoors on Sunday. But this is something that you'll want to keep an eye on, keep tabs on the next couple of days as we get closer to that storm. Because as of right now, there's still some uncertainty for exactly when that storm is going to move inland from California. And that is going to be our big impact for this weekend. For temperatures, 30s and 40s right now. We'll have a break tomorrow. Wind picks up on Thursday ahead of our cold front, and that's going to be the beginning of our active weather. For tonight, we still have some snow coming down, primarily for the Wasatch Back, and then we're getting some rain and snow going right now from Davis County into northern Salt Lake County. We're seeing a mixture of some rain and snow right now near the northern interchange, and then we head into the next couple of hours. And then early tomorrow morning, things will become much more unlikely for the morning commute. So should be dry tomorrow morning for practically all of you as you're heading out the door. Then temperatures tomorrow are going to make it into the 50s. Chance of precipitation goes up on Thursday with our cold front that will likely be arriving late afternoon or early evening on Thursday. And then we will see more active weather Saturday into Sunday and perhaps even into Monday. And then we'll likely see a break for a couple of days, and then it looks like we'll have some more chances for storms, even maybe getting into our 2-week forecast. For Provo, Thursday night, likely precipitation. Again, same thing this weekend, we're going to keep the active weather around. And for St. George, you also have chances for rain Saturday into Easter Sunday. So chance of precipitation over the next 7 days, really going to bolster those numbers, especially for the mountains. We've got a lot of snow in the forecast over the course of the next 7 days. For St. George, 67 tomorrow, 72 and windy on Thursday, 50s for Easter weekend. For the Wasatch Front, 50s for the next 7 days. Our active weather returns Thursday through Monday next week.
The Utah Jazz have just 10 games remaining in the regular season, starting tomorrow at home against the Spurs. It's been a tough stretch. They've lost 6 in a row, 17 of their last 20 games since the trade deadline. Playing the young players, but this process can be tough.
This league is brutal, and it waits for nobody. You know, regardless if you're in a rebuild or if you're, a team trying to compete for a championship. This league is unforgiving. And it doesn't care if you have a team full of rookies that you're trying to develop, it's going to be brutal. That energy, having continuous positive flow of energy is a necessary thing when you're not prepared to win at a high level. A lot of losing, a lot of doubt. So a lot of negative things can flow into your mind. It's rough. I don't think anybody in here is a loser. So it's on us to remain positive and understand that, again, it takes time to develop and to become competitive in this league.
The Utah men's basketball team is the only team in the state still playing in the postseason. The Utes will host VCU in the quarterfinals of the NIT tomorrow night. The Utes just missed out on getting into the NCAA tournament, but they're making the most of the NIT with wins over UC Irvine, and Iowa. The Utes started practice 6 months ago, so it's been playing together for a long time. It's been a grind, but they're playing great together in the NIT.
We have a lot of guys that haven't won at like a crazy high level. That's where we're at right now. And so to be able to play in these kinds of games and environments and compete, let's compete. I did ask our guys though individually about, and to a man, they wanted to keep playing and not to let it end. We need to keep playing and put these guys in these situations to grow. You can't put a price tag on playing. Like, you love to play. Why wouldn't we play?
The Utah football team completed their 7th practice of spring football today. A number of Utes are making big plays out there in what's turned out to be a solid day of practice.
Good day. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was our best practice of the first 7. And you'd expect that. You'd hope for that as you go through the progression. You clean things up and get better and better with your execution. A lot of playmakers out there. We got guys making plays all over the place, which is both sides of the ball, which is a good thing.
And it's the final week of spring football for BYU. There's been a lot of excitement about the Cougars' offense, but the competition this spring is helping out the defense.
I'm excited to see where we're going is a real thing. I feel like our defense has really improved. And like they said the offense is a little bit ahead of us, but I think the defense is right there. The competition is really stiff right now, so come season time, I feel like we're going to be super good just because we got a great offense that's pushing us to be the best. I'm excited for what's to come.
You know, when we run BYU and Utah football back-to-back, I think, boy, I'm excited they're going to be in the same conference this year.
Isn't that going to be great? Here it comes. Here it comes.
Been waiting for a long time for this.
Want to lay your wager right now, Jeff?
No, I like both teams. I like covering both teams. I just like them to settle it on the field. I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's always wonderful.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
For sure. Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back.
Check this out. The Utah Division of Wildlife Resources posted this picture congratulating Caleb Nelson for a new fishing record.
Holy cow.
Yeah, Caleb. He caught and released a 32-inch tiger trout back on December 9th.
That thing must weigh 50 pounds.
Now, you notice I'm missing something in this story,
What's
Caleb.
that?
We want to know where you caught it.
Schofield Reservoir.
Oh, Schofield.
There, it's on the banner. Okay, I thought he was keeping a little secret fishing haul.
That hole doesn't look big
Looks
enough.
like he's about to take a bite out of it.
Yeah.
No, he caught it and released it, sent it back.
I don't know how to get back to the hole.
Yeah, right. You had to make a bigger hole.
Pictures to prove it right there. Quick has this next.